Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to take a look at Plo Koon. This is Dave Filoni's favorite character in all of Star Wars, and I'd like to examine, not really a what-if scenario, but kind of go deeper into his abilities and his overall psychology and his species, really, when it came to him surviving Order 66 and how these abilities could have possibly changed the events of Order 66 as we know it if he had survived. I feel like him dying in that ship was really a scenario that really robbed him of being able to use any of his training to his maximum capabilities and to really changing the fate of the galaxy around if he was only given that chance to not be blown up in a ship over Cater Nemoidia. Now, I would say that Plo Koon is a character that is kind of overlooked and overshadowed by a lot more prominent characters. Now, he was a member of the Jedi Council for a long time. He was a Jedi Master. He's the one who found Ahsoka Tano, and many thought of him as kind of like a pillar in the Jedi Order. But what truly set him apart were, of course, his very unique Force abilities. Personally, I believe these abilities would have really set him apart in Order 66 and would have potentially changed the whole thing around. So first, I'm going to give you guys a backstory. If you know a lot about Plo Koon, feel free to skip a bit into this video, but for those who don't, let's find out more about who the man actually was and where he came from. Now, he came from a world with a very interesting and unique atmosphere. It's different from the oxygen-rich environments of many planets like ours. Keldorians required special masks to breathe and protect their eyes when outside of Doran. This environmental adaptation was a testament to the resilience and strength of the Keldor, characteristics Plo Koon undoubtedly inherited and owned. It also allowed him to breathe in space. This is why we see him just comfortably in space in the Clone Wars. Now, the power that I want to talk about mainly here is called Electric Judgment. This was a very controversial Force power indeed for a Jedi, and I think this would have really helped him during Order 66 because it would have just absolutely annihilated a lot of the clones if he were against them. Now, among the myriad of Force abilities that Plo Koon possessed, one in particular stood out, and this, of course, was the ability to shoot Force lightning, both for its potency and its ethical implications. Of course, this is why it's so controversial. Now, Electric Judgment really differed in intention and manifestation than Sith Force lightning that Plagueis or Palpatine or Count Dooku would have used. It was actually described as green or yellow electricity emitted from the user's hands, not like blue or purpley from the Sith variant. Now, Jedi teachings often revolved around defense, serenity, peace, and compassion, but Electric Judgment was more so aggressive, at least some deemed. Its use was very rare among Jedi because of its potential to tap into anger or hatred, and this is kind of the whole mantra of the Jedi, is that once you start down that path, forever will it dominate your destiny. So best to not even get a taste of it. And of course, Anakin got a major gulp of it during Attack of the Clones when he avenged his mother's death. Now, Plo Koon was able to use this ability, and the Council actually deemed him acceptable to use this because he was so different as a Jedi. He was really in control of his emotions, and he could wield this power without succumbing to them, which I think if others used them, they would completely succumb to the dark side. So this ability demonstrated not just his strength in the Force, but also his tenacity and his immense self-control. Another one of Plo Koon's traits that I think would have really helped him during Order 66 was the fact that he was a very strong detective, and he was able to investigate things really well, the way other people didn't see. He was kind of like a Sherlock Holmes almost of the Jedi. He was a very great thinker. His investigative prowess was unmatched within the Jedi Order. Now, I used to think, Obi-Wan was really good at figuring out scenarios and thinking, but I think Plo Koon is on a completely different level. If he had survived Order 66, who really knows the trajectory of the Star Wars saga and how it might have changed? With his ability to discern the truth and his relentless pursuit of justice, it's very conceivable that he could have uncovered Palpatine's treacherous plot far sooner. I think this would have definitely played a big role in uncovering Palpatine's true identity, but even after that, like if he had survived just a little bit longer into Order 66, maybe he got away from the clones or something like that, and he met up with some of the other Jedi, then I believe he could have perhaps put two and two together, maybe some different clues, and if he had met up with Obi-Wan and Yoda, I think those guys would have been a really powerful trio to uncover a lot of Order 66's truth and plot. Now, while also many Jedi exhibited telekinesis, the ability to move objects with their mind, Plo Koon's prowess was very powerful. His command over objects, irrespective of their size, was a true testament to his advanced connection with the Force. Now, he was able to actually control gas particles, a very, very powerful demonstration of precision, considering the minute nature of such matter. It's one thing to, of course, control a X-Wing, but it's another to control particles that are so fine and so small to save oneself. So with Plo Koon being gunned down in the starfighter over Cater Nemoidia, this really robbed him of his chances to really fend for himself and fight for the Jedi. It was the untimely end of a Jedi Master who had so much more to offer the galaxy. Had he survived, his unique abilities could have played a very significant role in opposing the Sith, uncovering the truth behind the Clone Wars, and mentoring the next generation of Jedi, including Luke Skywalker. And this is why it was so believable, I guess, when Dave Filoni lied to a lot of the VFX guys for Mandalorian Season 2, saying that Plo Koon was going to be returning instead of Luke Skywalker, because he didn't want to give it away. Personally, I'm really happy that Luke showed up, but if Plo Koon had arrived, I wouldn't be upset. In a fanfiction scenario, imagine Plo Koon surviving with his electric judgment, confronts Emperor Palpatine, and they battle it out together, lightning to lightning, light and dark. Now, of course, Palpatine would absolutely thwart him because true Sith lightning, as Plagueis said, can only be exhibited and unleashed if the user was actually attacked by it first. So if at one point in their life they'd actually felt the effects of Sith Force lightning, then it's kind of like being a vampire. You have to be bitten by a vampire first. And of course, Palpatine was leaps and bounds stronger than Plo Koon, but I do believe if they had at least for a moment maybe been able to stall Palpatine with some Force judgment, then I think Obi-Wan and Yoda, if they had both gone to Palpatine, would have been able to defeat him. If not, at least to just cause a distraction. I think if Plo Koon had survived and he would have, let's say, jumped out of his ship at the last moment, knowing that he was going to be blown up, he could have maybe gotten away somehow, landed in the water or something, and then found another ship, gone to perhaps Coruscant, gone to the Jedi Temple when Obi-Wan and Yoda were there, met up with them, and then maybe gone with Yoda to fight the Emperor. Or like in my fan fiction where what if Order 66 failed, him and Obi-Wan would have gone to Mustafar and they would have arrested Anakin. I truly believe that if one Jedi were to survive, Plo Koon would have really changed a lot of things around. He was powerful, he was extremely smart, and he was a really great detective. So while of course his time in the movies was very limited, we did get to learn more about him in the Clone Wars and of course in lore and YouTube videos and stuff like that. His impact on Star Wars lore remains very alive. And I think he stands as a great testament to how many interesting Jedi there are out there and the depth of the Jedi Order in general, showcasing that the Force's understanding and mastery isn't just black and white. It's not just, being able to move things around or meditate. His very unique abilities challenge the traditional Jedi dogma, which I also really enjoyed because I felt like the Jedi were just so unbelievably dogmatic and they became so overruled with politics by the end of it that it was just kind of boring almost. And this is what I loved about Legends Luke, is that he really changed this whole perception of the Jedi, and instead of being so afraid of the dark side, he kind of embraced his emotions and allowed himself to control his emotions so that he wouldn't fall to the dark side, but yet used them as an advantage because emotions are very powerful. With Plo Koon, he presented a very nuanced perspective of the Force, and I really respect that. I think it's quite refreshing. In fact, if anything, I would say he's more of a true Jedi because he uses more aspects of the Force than the Jedi of the prequel trilogy, who were just almost like OCD about it, just really sticking to one super light faceted side of it. And in a galaxy filled with heroes and villains alike, Plo Koon definitely shines as a beacon of what it means to be as a Jedi, constantly walking in the fine line between, I would say, the light and let's say the shadow, or well, a little more not so light. Whereas I feel like Mace Windu was teetering between light and dark, but he just kind of composed himself really well. So personally, I think if Plo Koon had survived, he would have been a really reliable help to the Jedi, even going as far as perhaps training Luke and Leia if he had survived. I mean, if he was there in that room with Padme, man, maybe, Leia would have gone with him and Luke would have gone with Obi-Wan or vice versa. That would have been really cool. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about Plo Koon surviving Order 66. Do you think he was the Jedi to maybe change the fate of everything, or is there another Jedi that you have in mind? Either way, I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video or for listening on Spotify and iTunes, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you